In the early days of firearms, most weapons could only fire a single shot before needing to be reloaded. This meant that after every shot, the shooter had to stop, manually load powder and a bullet, and prepare the weapon again. In battle or hunting situations, this slow process could make the difference between success and failure. As technology advanced during the 19th century, inventors began experimenting with ways to allow firearms to fire multiple shots before reloading. One of the most important breakthroughs in this journey was the development of rifles that could hold multiple rounds in a tubular magazine, and some designs could even hold up to 16 rounds at once. One of the most famous examples of this technology appeared in the mid-1800s with the creation of the Henry repeating rifle, introduced in 1860. Designed by Benjamin Tyler Henry, this rifle became a revolutionary weapon for its time. Unlike earlier firearms that required reloading after every shot, this rifle could store multiple cartridges in a long tubular magazine located beneath the barrel. In certain configurations, the magazine could hold as many as 16 rounds, allowing a shooter to fire repeatedly without stopping to reload. The concept of a tubular magazine was both simple and ingenious. Instead of storing ammunition in a box-shaped container like many modern rifles, the tubular magazine stored cartridges in a straight line inside a tube that ran parallel to the barrel. Each round was placed nose to tail inside the tube, and a spring mechanism pushed the ammunition toward the rear of the rifle. When the shooter operated the lever or action, the next round would automatically move into the chamber, ready to fire. This innovation dramatically increased the rate of fire compared to earlier muzzle-loading firearms. With 16 rounds ready to go, a soldier or hunter could fire multiple shots in quick succession without pausing to reload after every shot. This advantage was especially significant during conflicts such as the American Civil War, where repeating rifles began to demonstrate their battlefield effectiveness. Imagine the experience of a soldier using such a rifle during the 1860s. While opponents armed with older single-shot muskets might fire once and then spend precious seconds reloading, a soldier carrying a repeating rifle could continue firing again and again. The ability to hold 16 rounds in a tubular magazine meant that sustained firepower was possible without immediate reloading, giving the shooter a major tactical advantage. The loading process for a tubular magazine was also unique. Instead of inserting a detachable magazine, the shooter would typically rotate or slide part of the tube near the muzzle to expose a loading port. Cartridges were then placed into the tube one by one. Once the magazine was filled, the spring mechanism was secured back into place, and the rifle was ready to fire. Although this process could take a little time, the reward was a large number of shots ready to be used immediately. Another advantage of the tubular magazine design was its reliability. The simple spring-loaded system had relatively few moving parts, which meant it was less prone to mechanical failure compared to more complex feeding systems of the time. For soldiers and frontiersmen operating in harsh environments, reliability was crucial. Dust, mud, and rough conditions could easily affect complicated mechanisms, but the tubular magazine often continued to function effectively. However, this design also had limitations. Because cartridges were stacked nose to tail in a tube, pointed bullets could potentially strike the primer of the round in front of them under recoil. For safety reasons, many tubular magazine rifles used flat-nosed or round-nosed bullets instead of sharply pointed ones. While this slightly limited ballistic performance, it ensured that the ammunition remained safe to use inside the magazine. Despite these limitations, the ability to hold 16 rounds represented a massive leap forward in firearm capability. Before repeating rifles, soldiers typically fired 2 or 3 rounds per minute with muzzle-loading muskets. With a repeating rifle equipped with a tubular magazine, a skilled shooter could fire many more rounds in the same amount of time. This increase in firepower began to reshape military tactics and expectations for infantry weapons. Beyond the battlefield, tubular magazine rifles also became popular among hunters and settlers in North America. On the frontier, reliability and multiple shots were highly valued. Hunters often faced dangerous animals, and the ability to fire several rounds quickly could mean the difference between safety and serious danger. A rifle capable of holding 16 rounds provided both confidence and capability in these unpredictable environments. The success of the Henry rifle and its tubular magazine system eventually influenced later designs. Firearm manufacturers continued refining repeating mechanisms, leading to famous lever-action rifles such as the Winchester Model 1866 and later models that became iconic in American history. These rifles built upon the same core concept of a tubular magazine and repeating action, proving that the idea had long-lasting impact. Technological progress did not stop there. As the late 19th and early 20th centuries arrived, firearms began transitioning toward box magazines and more advanced ammunition designs. These newer systems allowed the use of pointed bullets and easier reloading with detachable magazines. However, the tubular magazine remained a respected and widely used design, especially in lever-action rifles and certain types of shotguns. Even today, tubular magazines are still found in modern firearms. Many lever-action rifles and pump-action shotguns continue to use this system because of its reliability and smooth feeding characteristics. While capacities may vary depending on the firearm and caliber, the fundamental concept remains similar to the designs developed more than a century ago. When we look back at the history of firearms innovation, the ability to hold 16 rounds in a tubular magazine stands out as a significant milestone. It represented a transition from slow, single-shot weapons to repeating firearms capable of sustained fire. This change not only improved efficiency for hunters and soldiers but also influenced the development of modern firearm technology. The story of repeating rifles and tubular magazines is also a reminder of how engineering creativity can transform entire industries. By solving the problem of limited ammunition capacity, inventors like Benjamin Tyler Henry helped push firearms technology forward and set the stage for future advancements. For historians and enthusiasts, these early repeating rifles remain fascinating examples of mechanical ingenuity. Their elegant combination of lever action, cartridge ammunition, and tubular magazine design shows how a simple but effective idea can revolutionize a field. The ability to hold 16 rounds may seem modest by modern standards, but during the 19th century, it was nothing short of extraordinary. Today, preserved examples of early repeating rifles can be found in museums and private collections around the world. They serve as reminders of a time when innovation was rapidly changing the nature of firearms and warfare. From the battlefields of the American Civil War to the rugged landscapes of the frontier, rifles with tubular magazines played a crucial role in shaping history. Understanding how these weapons worked helps us appreciate the technological progress that led to the firearms we see today. Each advancement, from single-shot muskets to repeating rifles, and later to modern automatic weapons, built upon the ideas that came before it. The 16-round tubular magazine was one of those important steps along the path of innovation. So when we look at a repeating rifle with a tubular magazine, we are not just seeing a firearm. We are seeing a piece of engineering history that changed the way weapons were used and designed. The ability to carry 16 rounds inside a simple tube beneath the barrel transformed the capabilities of shooters in the 19th century and left a lasting legacy that continues to influence firearm design today.